What's up, guys? Alex here with Unlock Your Wellness. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why carnivore might not be the best choice for achieving your health goals. All right, so carnivore. Carnivore is a diet that I'm very familiar with. I healed a great deal of my chronic health conditions that I was dealing with for the better part of a decade. Here's a couple photos here on the right of me. I got some chicken thighs there. I got some sirloin, got some eggs. I'm like just gnawing on a bone there. I was like all in on the carnivore diet, and it helped me tremendously. And many other people have found amazing success doing a carnivore diet, helping with their gut, with their microbiome, with digestion. And, there's a lot of benefit to it, right? It's high in zinc. There's a lot of bioavailable protein and fat. It's low inflammatory diet. It doesn't have anti-nutrients in it. It usually will help people in a big way with blood sugar regulation. However, this diet is not perfect. It has a lot of problems and weaknesses that people are not discussing, and I want to cover those things today. So, reason number one why a carnivore diet might not be helping you achieve your health goals is because it depletes your glycogen stores. So glycogen is basically stored sugar in your liver that your body uses whenever your blood sugar gets too low. So it helps to manage blood sugar. Now, if you are eating a low carb diet or a zero carb diet, as carnivore usually is, then you're going to burn through that glycogen because your body needs a way to push that sugar up. It's only got so much sugar that it can make from protein. And so if there's no carbs coming in, it's got to make that sugar somehow. You need glucose in order to function. Your brain especially really needs a lot of glucose. So if you go without sugar for too long, you're going to burn through that glycogen. And if you aren't able to convert the food that you're eating into sugar, then you are going to lean towards hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. And some of the primary ways that this manifests is in really poor sleep. So waking up multiple times in the night, every 30 to 60, 90 minutes or so. And what's happening is your adrenals are pumping up cortisol levels to push that glucose level higher so that it doesn't get dangerously low. But when that cortisol comes up, it's harder for you to get into sleep, into deeper sleep, because cortisol is stimulating your body. It's stimulating your body so that you can handle a stress, even though there's nothing technically stressful out there, okay, other than the low blood sugar. So there are other symptoms of hypoglycemia like sweating and heightened senses and feeling jittery and nervous. So if those things resonate, maybe this is the case for you. I would say this probably isn't the biggest reason as to why carnivore isn't working, but it could be making you uncomfortable and giving you some of these, nagging, annoying symptoms. But, some people like Sean Baker over here, Mr. Carnivore himself, they have no problem converting protein into sugar, and therefore they have no trouble keeping their glucose levels in a good range. They don't get too low. Okay. So that's not going to be a problem for them. Now, most people are not like Superman, like Sean Baker over here. So just consider that this might be something that's contributing to you if you've been on a carnivore diet for a really long time. Okay. And reason number two is severe mineral deficiencies and imbalances, specifically calcium and magnesium. These two essential minerals are crucial for blood sugar regulation and insulin release. Calcium activates insulin release from the pancreas, and magnesium turns this insulin release off. So if you have deficiencies of these minerals, or let's say you have major imbalance in these minerals, like here on the right on this test, on this hair test, we see that the calcium level is way higher than the magnesium level. And what this means chemically in your body is that your body is releasing a lot of insulin, or it has an easier time doing that. But because there's not as much magnesium available, it's going to have a harder time turning that insulin release off, which then also leads to hypoglycemia and the same symptoms we talked about before. In addition to that, if that ratio is super imbalanced, you are going to have a very tough time processing the carbohydrates if you have any, right? You are going to be poor at absorbing and digesting high carb foods because there's just too much insulin, right? And you get overreactive to that. Now, this could be a big reason why people gravitate towards carnivore and other low carb diets, keto, and so on and so forth, because they don't do well with carbohydrates, right? And they think, oh, carbs are evil. I can't do this. Like I always feel like crap when I eat a carb. This is the reason why. This is why you can't process your carbohydrates. It's because your minerals are out of balance. Your minerals, your micronutrient status is going to determine how well your macronutrients are processed, absorbed, digested, and utilized. So this can explain why people gravitate towards these types of diets. You should be able to eat some carbohydrates without having to take a nap, okay? That's not normal. And additionally, beyond calcium and magnesium, zinc and chromium also are very impactful in how well your body uses insulin, okay? So how effective the insulin is. So if you have deficiency of zinc and chromium, you might have way more imbalanced blood sugar problems, and you cannot very easily overcome those deficiencies simply by eating more meat. It's not going to be the answer. We need to address those deficiencies. We'll talk about how you do that here in a little bit, but just know how important the minerals are to how well you function. Now, where do we get most of our minerals from? The answer actually is cooked vegetables and high quality dairy. If you are eating a meat-only carnivore diet, for example, you are not going to be getting hardly any magnesium, calcium, potassium, and other essential minerals. You get way more of those minerals by eating cooked vegetables especially over raw vegetables, because raw vegetables, it's harder for you to synthesize and absorb the minerals in the plant cell compartments. But also goat dairy is an amazing source of potassium and calcium. If you are on a low carb diet or carnivore diet and you don't have enough of these minerals coming in, which are alkaline in nature, your body may have trouble maintaining its pH and it will lean towards becoming more acidic. And that is not a good thing. Okay. If your body becomes too imbalanced, too acidic, you're going to have all sorts of problems. You can get all sorts of uncomfortable and annoying symptoms, and you need to be getting enough minerals so that you can get in a more balanced place with your chemistry. Reason number 3, carnivore may not be working for you, is that you are burnt out and highly toxic. So a very important truth that people need to understand is that nothing wreaks more havoc on a person's health and their body than heavy metals. They are the most toxic substances in our universe. Nickel, especially, is a highly toxic heavy metal and a blood sugar poison because it has an affinity to the pancreas. And let's say you're having trouble with blood sugar regulation and insulin, like we've been talking about. You're trying all this stuff with your macronutrients. You're going low carb. You're watching your protein. You got a lot of fat, or you're just eating nothing but steak, and your blood sugar is still high or all over the place. Well, that could be because you have nickel toxicity in your pancreas, or you have all kinds of other heavy metals that are disrupting your blood sugar regulation. And you can't just, balance and manipulate your macros and expect it to go away. Okay, you can't get around that fact if you have heavy metal toxicity. So if you are waking up in the morning, you take your blood glucose, you're consistently over 100 milligrams per deciliter, and you're not even eating any carbohydrates, I suspect that you probably have heavy metals that you need to support your body in getting rid of. Another concept that not a lot of people are talking about in the health and wellness space, but it is sort of going around a little bit more, is this idea of ionic mimicry. And what this is the similarities between elements on the periodic table. And your body is going to accumulate more heavy metals to take place of essential minerals if they are not taking up the spaces in tissue compartments where they're supposed to be. Okay, so if you are missing a ton of zinc or a ton of chromium or magnesium, and your body doesn't have those, right? It needs those things to operate your metabolism and your physiology. Well, it's going to accumulate and bring in heavy metals from the air or from your environment or from your food, and stuff those metals, those toxic metals, into your cells, into your tissues. Because even though they're highly toxic, they still serve a purpose, right? They operate at like maybe 10, 15, 20% efficiency of their ideal counterpart, zinc, calcium, magnesium, because living at 10% efficiency is better than death. So if you're deficient, you're more likely to become toxic and accumulate these heavy metals over time. So an example of this in real time would be on a meat-only carnivore diet, which is extremely low in potassium. Arsenic is more likely to be accumulated because of their similarity in chemical structure. And if you already have arsenic toxicity, you're going to have even more trouble using the potassium in the way that it needs to in your body. A lack of potassium coming in through the diet combined with a severe deficiency is going to basically make this arsenic toxicity even worse. And the same goes for, let's say, cadmium and zinc, lead and calcium. Lead, can get into the bones where calcium is supposed to be, and aluminum for magnesium. Magnesium is needed to make energy, to make ATP, and aluminum can get in the places where magnesium is supposed to be, and it can be a huge poison for your mitochondria. If carnivore is not working for you and you're plateauing with your health goals, or you're not getting better, or maybe you're even getting worse on a carnivore diet, your thyroid and your adrenals are shot, okay? You're not making energy well, you're not detoxing well, you're deficient, you're burnt out, you're highly toxic. And trying to heal your gut and shifting your microbiome and, working on this, bashing your head against the wall, it's not going to work. Okay. It's not what your body needs. Your body is going to need more. Your body might need more than what you're giving it. And you need a full systems approach that's going to balance the entirety of your biochemistry. Okay. So the main things I hope you take away from this video are that carbs, they're not evil. You might not be doing well on the carbs for a number of different reasons, but carbs themselves, vegetables, for example, are not inherently evil. They serve a purpose, and they can be a great addition to a really balanced, healthy diet. You get a lot of minerals from cooked vegetables, for example. And while it's true that carnivore has a lot of benefit, okay, it's going to be better than a lot of other diets out there, it might not be optimal long-term and for achieving the health goals that you want, right? The best possible health that you're shooting for. And I'm not saying that veganism is the answer, okay? I would much prefer you go on a carnivore diet than a vegan diet, that's for sure. But we get into these spots that might be a little problematic or dangerous if we go too far on the extremes. So we want to find a healthy medium. That's what I recommend for you. Finding a healthy medium where you can get the best of the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. If you insist on doing carnivore, I would highly recommend that you make sure you're doing eggs and dairy, high quality dairy. So plenty of eggs, you get the goat kefir, cheese, these sorts of foods in, so you get more of those minerals in through your diet. And I'm sure there are people watching this that might be asking the question, but what about the carnivore tribes? What about the Maasai people? And yes, I am familiar about the Maasai. One of my mentors actually has visited them in Africa multiple times, so I've gotten to hear a lot about what she's been able to see and observe from them and how they live a very healthy life. But what you have to understand is that the circumstances of their lifestyle and the way that they live versus us in the modern Western world is completely different. They likely have less stress overall than we do. They have a tighter sense of community. They are not in question of what their purpose is from the time they're born to when they grow into old age. They're not exposed to as many heavy metals as we are. And their soil is probably in much better shape than it is anywhere else in the world, really, but especially here in the United States with the glyphosate and everything else that's monocropping. Yeah. So we can't easily compare our circumstances. Okay. There are some differences there. And we need to make sure that we're addressing our individual needs and problems in the way that makes the most sense for us. We can't make these equivalencies without falling into traps here. And another argument that I might be hearing is, but what about the anti-nutrients? What about the oxalates and the lectins and the salicylates and the phytates and da. And I hear you as well. But in my opinion, these fears are totally overblown. We have to focus on nutrient density. If you focus on nutrient density above everything else, you're going to be okay. If you find a healthy middle ground, like I mentioned before, where you're getting a good balance of the meat and the animal foods and the plant foods, and you're not going overboard one way or another, and you're also, making adjustments as needed, then you're going to be fine. All right, you're going to be great. And yeah, sure, there might be cases where you're dumping a ton of oxalates and we need to not have you eating spinach all the time. Sure, absolutely. But the real truth is, in my opinion, is finding a healthy middle ground. And another thing that people forget is that both plants and animals don't want to die and be eaten, but something does have to die in order for something to live. That's the cycle of nature, the life and death cycle. And as a carnivore, it's easy to forget that somebody had to kill the animal that you're eating. And thousands of years ago, when we were hunters and gatherers, you either had to kill the animal with your physical body and survive that, or you had to survive the anti-nutrients that you were eating in the plant food. So your physical body, or your intestines, or your immune system, and your nervous system, right? Take your pick. You gotta be able to survive one way or another. Nature is metal. And another note here is that I remember falling into this trap when I was eating a carnivore diet, and I became super obsessive compulsive about avoiding these anti-nutrients because I was convinced that they were going to cause me flares in my symptoms. And this fear that I had, these obsessions that I had, was way worse than eating any single anti-nutrient. Negative emotions, stress, these things are going to be way worse and keep you from healing than eating some oxalate or eating some lectins here or there. So in summary, if you are struggling with your health, you've been trying carnivore for a long time to no avail, you're still dealing with these chronic health issues, you may need to try something different. And eating a modified paleo diet with plenty of cooked vegetables, dairy, meat, nuts, right? A full balanced paleo diet, in addition to an individualized mineral balancing program. This will address deep mineral imbalances and deficiencies and eventually support your body with enough energy and vitality so that you can detox and push out the heavy metals that are stuck in your cells and that are actually causing all of your chronic health conditions. So that's it for this video. I hope you got some value from it. If you're interested in ordering a hair test and getting started on a mineral balancing program, please feel free to reach out. Don't hesitate. All right. You got my email, you got my website down below. You can also schedule a free consult with me. The link is in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.